If you guys like ambling editions of Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball, boy, do I have the show for you. Welcome, everybody. It's a 4-game recap show, so we have all the time in the world. And so let's just dive straight in, because I'm a maniac like that. Hawks beat the Hornets 134-102. Onyeka Okongwu, Trae Young, Dyson Daniels doing their thing. Zachary Risa-Shea has, like a lot, as similar to a lot of rookies, started to play better as the season has approached its conclusion. Does that mean that he's a guy that you want to start the rest of the way? I don't think that necessarily means it for sure, but he's certainly scoring better and he's shooting better. So a few things have been, I don't know, semi sorted out. He still gets almost no defensive stats. Rebounding is fine, doesn't really pass basically at all. And yes, while the free throw numbers have been a little bit better lately, he's not getting to the line. So there's just too many holes in his fantasy game where an ad kind of doesn't make any sense in 9 categories. If you're wondering what that goofy snap cut was, it's because I sneezed. And I tried to make sure that you guys didn't see it. I don't know how good of a job I did. In any event, Zachary Risa-Shea, 21 points, 8 boards, a couple of assists, a block, and 5 3-pointers. Yes, like to finish the thought there, he's coming on, but to me in 9 cat, it's probably not quite good enough if you are looking, and we've talked about this a million times, the Hawks have a bevy of wings that you can stream when the schedule is good. And right now, it's not. This is the Hawks' last game until Saturday, so this is hardly the time to take the plunge on an Atlanta player anyway. Vit Krejci up to 31 minutes. He's kind of one of those... funny thing is that he kind of profiles as the perfect old man squad kind of dude because he doesn't score, but he usually gets a few boards, a few assists, steals, blocks, threes on okay percentages. Problem is that his usage is painfully low. And if we have to worry about all these other guys doing stuff, which it does kind of seem like we do right now, I don't know that there's quite enough there to reliably say that Krejci's going to get to do things. So I'm fine with just kind of waiting and seeing how this one shakes out. For Charlotte, no LaMelo Ball and no Miles Bridges. So there was usage for days, and nobody really wanted it. Nick Smith Jr. took 13 shots. Daquan Jeffries took 12. Jeffries was the guy that we mentioned on our streaming show yesterday, mostly for blocks, and he did get 2 of those. So at least we got that part right. I didn't expect him to score 19 points with 5 boards and 3 threes as well. I would assume that LaMelo Ball is back at some point soon. I really don't know for sure. They play again tomorrow. They're going every other day. Nope, excuse me. They play on Friday, so 2 days from now in Utah. So a game that they... No. I had this right. They play tomorrow against Knicks. I had it right. Everybody calm down. I've got this under control. I don't have this under control. They've got the Knicks tomorrow, and then they're in Oklahoma City on Friday. So back-to-back, meaning I don't know what that means. Like, do we see Mark Williams for the first half or the second half? Do we see LaMelo Ball for either of them? There isn't really an obvious Ball backup, but Damian Baugh is kind of the closest thing you've got to a LaMelo fill-in play, but that is a saucy play. And again, today's an off day for them, and it's not good enough to call him a games cap play regardless. So I'm probably leaving that alone. For you Roto Leaguers or you games cappers, Yusuf Nurkic is on the table right now because we know Mark Williams, I almost called him Marvin Williams. We know that Mark is going to miss one of the next 2 games in the upcoming back-to-back, and Moussa Diabate hurt his leg here. Basketball Monster has him as out for an expected estimated 5 games. I don't know if that's necessarily going to be the number, but if Nurk is the only backup center and Mark Williams does take a game off, Nurk playing 25 to 30 minutes, we've already seen it with this hapless Charlotte team. He's going to do enough to have fantasy value. So look for Nurk to be useful in one of the next 2 ball games, but that's very much a games cap move and not a I have a limited number of weekly moves that I can use right now. Hey, guys, are you enjoying March Madness so far? It's just getting started. It's just this sort of play-in part of it, but there's more. Oh my, is there more? And Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for betting on the madness. They've got the largest selection of odds on everything involving March Madness, plus a $200,000 bracket contest. So, if you've got a feeling, if you've got an inkling, if you've got a lean, if you've got a guaranteed super mega lock, from every Cinderella story to every hat trick, yes, other sports and baseball happening right now, BetOnline has you covered with odds, stats, and more on every game, every play, and every win. BetOnline, the game starts here. All right, pause the show again. Many of you will not notice because you are listening passively, but now I've drugged myself to the hilt on antihistamines and other sinus stuff. So now we're going to get through this damn show without me leaking boogers all over you guys. Brooklyn and Boston. Is there any team more obnoxious than the Brooklyn Nets from a fantasy standpoint? Why, I ask you, why? And I mean, I know the answer is because you got a tank, but why we got to play everybody 20 some odd minutes? This is the worst for fantasy. It's the anti-Tom Thibodeau of fantasy basketball. Cam Johnson, 29 minutes. Keon Johnson, 23 minutes. Zaire Williams, 28 minutes. Tyrese Martin, 19 minutes. D'Lo, 29 minutes. That was actually pretty high for him. Day'Ron Sharpe, 19 minutes. Nick Claxton, 29. Maxwell Lewis, 19. Trendon Watford, 20. Noah Clowney, 18. And poor Jalen Wilson, 7. And I know what you're thinking. Dan, with everybody getting all this weird playing time, maybe it was a blowout and they had to play reserves longer in the fourth quarter. Nope. It's a competitive ball game. Honest to goodness, I don't know. I mean, I'm obviously going to keep playing Cam Johnson because he's been good all season long, but like, I don't have a good reason to hold on to D'Angelo Russell. Decent ball game here, be damned. Although, you know, if they start to play him 29 minutes, then maybe that's a good reason for it. But, geez. Apparently, I didn't drug myself to the hilt enough. So, no, I'm not into, like, okay, Brooklyn had the 5-game week, and I get it. That was sort of a big thing. And this week, they're playing on the quiet days. So, we really want to be able to pick up nets. But I just don't think that any of these guys is trustworthy enough. And of the fringe level players, and I'm going to put D'Lo in that, he's the most trustworthy, followed by Zaire Williams, followed by Keon Johnson, followed by waves hands not enthusiastically at the screen. Celtics were down Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum for this ball game, but mostly had their... It's an unusual combination of players for them to not have. Jason Tatum was a late scratch. He's having some knee stuff. Jaylen Brown, we knew was hurt earlier, kind of going into this event. And I don't know, you know, Jaylen Brown got ruled out a day in advance. So this one might be a couple of ball games, and they've got a game in Utah, then they're in Portland. So these are not like make or break games for them, and they're games that the team may win without these guys. I would assume, because the Celtics are in their own pocket, and you have to look at the standings to get a feel for what a team might do. Celtics are a 6.5 game back of the Cavs. They're not catching Cleveland. They're 6 games up on the Knicks. They're not falling back there. The Celtics are the 2 seed in the Eastern Conference going into the playoffs this year. That's a lock at this point. So they can do whatever the hell they want with their players. Thus, and by the way, I do think that Jason Tatum's back for the next ball game. Like I said, it just like a late scratch with multiple days off before the next one really feels like he's going to play in the next ball game kind of thing. But I don't know about Jaylen Brown. And then, you know, I assume that Kristaps Porzingis is going to try to play in every game he's able other than back-to-backs, which they have, by the way, over this coming weekend, Sunday into Monday, Portland, Sacramento, kind of a tough back-to-back, by the way. Why am I saying by the way a lot today? I don't know. My kids keep waking me up at weird hours because they have to go poop. So assume Porzingis is going to miss one of those games. So get your Al Horford games cap ad/drop ready. Jrue Holiday has been playing his frickin' rear end off lately. After being quite bad for most of the year, he's been amazing really the last 2 weeks. top 40 over that stretch. Big defensive numbers, 12 points, 5 boards, 5 assists. And yeah, I mean, the guys around him are missing a game here and there, but it hasn't been because other dudes have been out. He's just been better. The defensive stats that really weren't there for a long stretch of the year are finally coming around for him. The assists have been better lately, and that does have to do, at least in this last ball game, with some guys being out. But it's not like a one-to-one thing there. So Jrue Holiday, who got dropped in a lot of leagues for good reason, because he was quite bad for a long time, and he's still actually a free agent in one of my leagues. He very much needs to be on rosters right now. I don't know if you can call him the ad of the night because of how heavily he was already rostered, but in more competitive leagues, he was actually dropped because teams were like, this guy's sucked for like 2 months. I'm not going to sit on him anymore. And when I say more competitive leagues, I don't mean deeper leagues. I mean like 12 teamers where you can't sit on a guy who's crapping on your team. Sam Hauser is just a threes stream while Tatum, Brown, etc. are out. Derek White will likely be better in the next one. I know Al Horford played a lot of minutes, but he really kind of needs to be the center. We saw that in Philadelphia, and it's somewhat similar here in Boston with the slight caveat that he gets to do more facilitating in Boston than he did in Philly. So he's borderline playable as a starting power forward. He's very much playable when he gets the start at center. And then you can go ahead and assume that Peyton Pritchard is going to be better in the next one. No, not adding this Baylor kid. 20 points, 6 threes is nice, but he ain't going to shoot 7 out of 8 shooting every ball game. I think that's Shireman, but I might be getting that last name wrong because you know me. I love to screw up the names. It's really just that guys that, I don't know, do I want to say haven't played? He's played, but not much. What's the total minutes for Shireman this year? 159. They got 30 of them on March 6th. Nice clustering there. Good cluster. Milwaukee at Golden State. The Warriors just keep beating up on teams since the Jimmy Butler trade. They're a fresh new beast. The only game they lost was the one that they probably should have won. This game they won without Steph Curry. So, well, let's go over to the Warriors side first in this one. They're more interesting than Milwaukee in this particular ball game. Brandin Podziemski being back was good timing. I don't think that was a coincidence. 17 points, 7 boards. Podziemski does belong on all rosters. He seems to have kind of found his game late in the year. Obviously, Draymond Green, who's on a ridiculous defensive stats tear, and then Jimmy Butler. Those are the easy ones right now. And then Steph, of course. Other Warriors, Kuminga, I'm only playing if you need points, because otherwise his fantasy game is extremely limited. Moses Moody, who was coasting along with no Podziemski, is now back to being a little bit more of a fringe level guy. And again, like if you picked him up in a head-to-head format for the back-to-back, just hold him through the low traffic days because the Warriors have the best schedule of anybody this week. Quentin Post, again, you're talking schedule play. Buddy Hield, a threes streamer on a schedule play. I don't think any of these other guys rise above that. And Moses Moody is the guy that sort of drops from you could play him everywhere with Podziemski out. And now I think it falls back more into that schedule level thing. How about the old Buccos? Not a great game from Damian Lillard. I thought he'd be better in this one. I know the Warriors are D'ing up on everyone. And they D'd up on the Bucks, man. Held Milwaukee to 93 points. That's an impressive effort. Kuzma was better. I don't care. I don't want anything to do with that dude. No changes here for the Bucks. I'd love to stretch this part of the show into something that it's not, but Brook Lopez, Giannis, Dame, those are the only Bucks you're playing against the games cap. You can roll schedule play. Kuzma's a schedule play. Gary Trent's a schedule play. Taurean Prince is a schedule play. Even Kevin Porter is a borderline schedule play, but they don't have anybody else that needs to be rostered full bore. And then if you're looking at schedule stuff, we're going to do that on our other show, but Milwaukee also plays on the low traffic days this week, so something to think about there. Bucks play every other day, starting from this most recent Sunday all the way until April 3rd. That's weird, isn't it? You don't care? Great. Let's keep going. Last game on the board. We're only 15 minutes into the show. What the hell are we doing here? Well, not a lot today. Max Strus, 24 points. He was great. Came out, hit his first 2 threes like in the first 2 minutes of the ball game, and he was just off and cooking from there. Did not get his usual allotment of assists because he did more scoring in this one, and his teammates, by and large, couldn't shoot the ball other than DeAndre Hunter, basically. But as we talked about already, he was a solid schedule play starting yesterday. The Cavs had a back-to-back Tuesday, Wednesday, so they play again tonight in Sacramento. They're going to be gassed for that ball game. Then they're in Phoenix on Friday, Utah on Sunday. And this is way more points than you thought you were going to get out of Strus on a schedule play for him. But, we talked about the 4 or 5 rebounds. We talked about the 3 to 5 assists. He was low on that particular front, but, had better percentages than expected here. And really, like, in terms of schedule streams, this is a great start for his. DeAndre Hunter off to a decent start on his 3 games out of 4-night schedule stream. He only played 20 minutes, but he hit 7 out of 10 shots. So got you a good field goal percent and scored and didn't do anything else. Otherwise, the only other schedule play I threw out there was Ty Jerome, who was just absolutely horrible at the free throw line. That was extremely weird. Normally, he'd make at least 2 more of those and would have given him 12 points and 4 assists. But again, you had both backcourt guys in for the Cavs. So if you went the Ty Jerome route, you're now hoping that somebody rests this one, the second half of the back-to-back, so that he can get to do a little bit more. The Clippers wanted this game more, and I don't think anything was more evident than, for one, how great they played, but 2, the Cavs didn't play their guys heavier minutes, even though it was a competitive ball game. So it was one of those moments where, like, if Cleveland wasn't running away with the division, if this was a more important game, you might have seen them stretch Garland out to 35, 36 minutes, Donovan Mitchell up to 35, 36, but they didn't bother because they were like, odds are we're down like 7, 8 points pretty late. What are we going to do? Well, you'd let them take a shot, but we're not going to risk anything. And that's smart. That's what they should do. And for the Clippers, they need wins, and this was a really big one for them to knock off a very, very good opponent. The Clippers staying a half game back of the Wolves to get, I guess we say a full game back of the Warriors is the more important one to get out of the play-in tournament. So this is a big win for them. And Kawhi was awesome. And we're starting to see more and more of the Kawhi that it looks like the beast that we know he is. Over his last 6 ball games, Kawhi's averaging 25, 6, and 4 with 3.2 defensive stats, 2.5 threes, 50% from the field, a weirdly low 72% at the free throw line. But we're very close now to the I'm a positive in all 9 categories Kawhi. If he was making his foul shots, he would basically be there right now. But this is, and not to say that this was like a good decision because Kawhi took so long to get ramped up and he's number 72 on the season at this point. Or wait, is he a little bit better than that? Hold on. Let's get the real numbers. 71. I was quite close. And he's only played 26 games, and he's probably only going to play. I didn't look at the rest of the Clippers schedule, but what do we think he's going to play here? How many more back-to-backs do the Clippers have? They have 3 more back-to-backs. So he'll miss 3 games the rest of the way, meaning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. He'll play 10 more games. So yeah, obviously he is not a win because it took him way longer to come back than expected. But damn if he ain't peaking at the right time for you head-to-head leaguers, because this is colossal basketball. You're getting a first-round dude all of a sudden, and it kind of came out of nowhere, so that's fun. And if you took him in a games cap league, if you're going to get 35 to 40 games out of a dude who ends up rolling at a first-round clip for the final 20 of them, that also ends up being useful, if obviously still an overall loss. Ivica Zubac went nuts. He's having a great year. If he could make his free throws, he'd be having a really great year. Bogdan Bogdanovic had 20 points on a perfect 8 out of 8 shooting. Terrific performance from Bogdanovic, and you have to wonder if this buys him a little bit more playing time because overall this year he's been quite bad. And I just didn't think he looked healthy this year. But he's showing some signs of life, more so in the games that Kawhi doesn't play, which I think is probably still where he belongs. I'd call him a very close guy right now. I'm not picking up Bogdanovich because, look, he ain't going to shoot 100% every ball game. In fact, he probably won't shoot 100% any more ball games this year. But he did it here, and he's playing better. He's top 100 over the last 2 weeks. And as we already talked about, Kawhi has 3 more rest days mixed in. So in the very worst case scenario, you can get 3 plug-and-play games out of Bogdanovich, and that might just have to be enough to satiate you. The big question with the Clippers right now is what's the plan with Norman Powell? And I have to be honest with you guys, I don't really know. He hasn't been healthy in a while. Last time he played full starters minutes was February 13th. It was the day before the All-Star break. He missed 6 games coming out of the break, came back, played 9 minutes, then missed another 7 games, and he's played about 20 minutes a game in the 2 since he's come back. Now the Clippers have a couple days off. They're in a very light part of their calendar, as we've talked about on our streaming shows a lot. How long does it take to get Norman ramped back up again? How much time do we even have? We got 3.5 weeks left of the NBA season. I don't know if there's enough time for Norm to get ramped back up. I do have him in 3 of my 8 cash roto leagues. And I think you got to sit on him in those. But I truly don't know if he's even going to post one good fantasy game the rest of the way. My best guess is that he does get up into the mid-20s, and at that point, he'll be playable. But again, they've got Kawhi now fully revved up. So the Norm that's coming back is not coming back to the same job he had when he went out. Good Lord. Could James Harden just make one damn shot this year? What an absolutely atrocious shooting year. He's number 25 despite like a game-breakingly bad field goal percent. But, man, could have been such a great year if he would have just shot like 42, 43% instead of 39. Well. So anyway, the thought on Norman Powell here, to finish that up, is I think you got to sit on him in most formats. Frankly, I think he's probably worth an ad in head-to-head on the other side of this bad scheduling run for the Clippers, which runs until the 26th. So you got about a week to make your call on Norman Powell. They play Friday and Sunday here, not part of a back-to-back. So Kawhi will likely be in for those ball games, and they're going to be competitive. Like, these are big games for the Clippers, Memphis and OKC. And then the Knicks is actually kind of the start of when their schedule starts to pick back up a little bit. By the time we get to that Knicks game next Wednesday, I think Norm will probably be playable in fantasy, but it might be another game or 2 after that. Don't be surprised if it's another week and a half before he's fantasy useful. And then Chris Dunn, I think you can probably drop now that Norm is back, even if it's in a limited capacity for the moment. Derek Jones Jr., also not a guy that needs to be on rosters. And again, this is sort of why I feel the same way about Bogdanovich, who had a great ball game here. It's hard to play any of these guys when the Clippers have Kawhi, Harden, and Norm all in, especially as Norm starts to get fully ramped up. But Bogdanovich, on a day that Kawhi sits, I'm thinking is still probably playable. Jones, Dunn, probably streamable when the Clippers have their 5 games in 7-day stretch. That comes up on March the 30th. So that's 11 days out. And that's probably all you really need to do there. Look at that. We stretched a Clippers chat into 8 minutes long. That's it, guys. That's the stinking show. I don't even think I even remember to say hi to you. Hi, everyone. I'm Dan Besbris. Please subscribe to Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. I skipped right over the normal introduction stuff, but whatever. What I need from you guys, obviously, is to hit that like button to keep the show dropping into algorithms, because at this time of year, it's not that easy to do so on YouTube. Comments are open. I did not get to the comments yesterday, but don't worry. I'm going to loop back around. I'll hit all of those today at some point. Subscribe no matter where you're taking in the content, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, whatever. And if you have a moment, and if you've been listening on iTunes and Spotify and you like what you're hearing, please find a way to drop that 5-star review. It's actually really important as we continue to grow this weird little mutated beast that is Old Man Squad Sports Network and Old Man Squad. This show fantasy basketball. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'm Dan Besbris, back with you in 2 hours. We'll have our daily streaming episode. Today's an important one because there's a lot going on Wednesday. I don't know how many moves you've used this week, but we'll talk through that as well. I will see you guys for that show in a little bit.